Good morning. It says this live video is starting, so I'm not sure if it's starting or if it has started. It's Saturday morning, and I'm going to be sharing my art. Let me see. Okay. Yeah. So I decided that I would put my artwork on Etsy now, and I wanted to share some of the pieces with you. So I thought I would start this morning with a collection of my intuitive art pieces. So, how did I get involved in art? I was not somebody who, as a child, had a lot of um, artwork that was considered good. Nobody in my family shared or saved anything, so there's nothing from that particular time. Sorry to say, but for whatever reason, it was something that remained in my subconscious until a particular time. You know how they talk about those seeds being planted, and then when the conditions are correct, then that's when it actually begins to emerge. So I was 30, living in London, and I didn't have much to do. I was married at the time, and my husband was working, and I didn't know anybody, and I was all alone, and so I had a lot of free time. I happened to pick up at the bookstore The Artist's Way, and I was doing the morning pages, which is a stream of consciousness. You write 3 stream of consciousness pages every morning. And as I was writing those, I realized I didn't have anything to write. So day after day with nothing to write, it was getting kind of difficult and tedious to do the same thing over and over again. And one morning I remembered a dream. And so I began writing my dreams down, which is how I got involved in dream work. And then I began to have these dreams about being in an art class, which I was totally perplexed. Why on earth would I dream of being in an art class? I had no talent whatsoever. Like I said, there was no experience in childhood where some art teacher, crushed my dreams of being an artist and told me I didn't have any talent. I mean, like nothing like that happened. No one ever made a comment about it. It just wasn't a thing. So I was perplexed. Like, why would I be dreaming of being in art classes if I didn't have any art talent? So when we moved back to the United States after a couple of years, I decided that I would go to graduate school for counseling psychology. And I thought, well, for balance, I'll just take an art class. So as I looked through the art, the schedule to sign up, the catalog, there was a class on pottery. And I thought, well, that's a good place to start. Probably won't have a lot of judgment about it. We'll be kind of ease into it. So I did. I took this pottery class. And one day I walked into the firing room, and there was a clay sculpture sitting there that was ready to be fired. And I was just stopped in my tracks. It was stunning. It was so beautiful. It was a woman with loose curls, and her head was thrown back, and she was just beautiful. It was just, I just was like, okay, I've got to take a sculpting class. So I did take a sculpting class, and the professor or the teacher this was just a local, neighborhood studio. The professor happened to be one of the sculpting professors from the oldest art atelier in the United States. So I think it was from the 1700s. And so he was obviously working with some pretty high caliber people. And one day, just in an offhand way, he's like helping me with my sculpture. And he says, you are gifted and you need to keep sculpting. And because I didn't have a place for that to land, like I said, no history of art whatsoever, it just kind of drifted by. And I found myself taking art classes and quitting with him twice. But during one of the classes that I took, one of the other students said, you should take a drawing class. It'll help with your sculpting. So I enrolled in a drawing class the next semester, and the teacher and I really hit it off. She was interested in spirituality, and I was, and so we really had a connection. And I told her, I said, I've recognized that I keep quitting these classes. I said, will you help me? Can I stay? If I'm going to plan to stay in the class, but I'd like you to just kind of, help me get through whatever it is that's challenging me and keeping me from stepping into this. So she said, okay. So one night before the class was going to be the next day, and I was thinking about, I don't think I'll go tomorrow. And what I didn't recognize at the time was that was the way the pattern began. It was like, I don't think I'll go tomorrow. And then the next week, I don't think I'll go this week. And then the third week, well, I've missed 2 weeks. I really can't go back because I've already missed 3. So this was the pattern that was like unfolding. So, excuse me. So I have this, I'm not going the next day. I'm pretty sure I'm not going the next day. So I go to sleep that night and I have a dream. And the dream says, you have to go back tomorrow or the teacher won't be there again. And it kind of freaked me out. I was like, oh my God, I better go. So I go back to class the next day, or that day as it turns out. And we had been doing these live drawings of this woman. And the week before, she looked like Gumby. I don't know if you know who Gumby is, but everything was like elongated and like, distorted. And it was not a pretty picture, to say the least. But on this morning, I did this drawing and it was like, someone had stepped into, some artist had stepped into my body and took my hand and did the drawing. And everybody in the class was stunned. They were like, how is this possible? How is it possible that you did this Gumby drawing last week and this week you did this drawing? They were like, that's just crazy. And the teacher said, I knew you had it in you, but you wouldn't let it out. So this process of stepping into art, especially starting when I was older, as opposed to having that, ongoing conditioning from childhood that I was an artist, has been a real challenge for me. Good morning, Vicki. How are you this morning? I'm showing my artwork today. So, intuitive art. So the way that I work with these particular paintings that I'm showing today is I put the paint on the canvas and then I just allow it to dry. And then always there seems to be something that emerges. So in this case, this is one of the first ones I did. I did this painting and it dried, and this is basically what I saw. I mean, I was like, that's insane. Like you could see his beard and his mouth and his eye and his nose. I was like, that's crazy. So all I had to do, and this is how I work with these paintings, is I just put the other eye in and kind of finish the face. But what I noticed was there seemed to be part of another face here. It was probably about like that. And I was debating, like, should I leave this in? Should I take it out? Like, I wasn't sure how that would go along with it. So I thought, well, I think I'm going to take it out. So a friend of mine, she happened to say, yeah, you know what? Randomly, she said, I think you should leave it in. And I was like, okay. So I begin to put it in, and then it goes backwards for me. I've put the rest of the face in, so like the 2 eyes, the nose, and the mouth, so you could see it. And so intuitively, I sometimes get names. So I had gotten Ezekiel, and then I had been getting that week, as I was working on the painting, like the name David. And so when I looked up, because I don't know too much about the Bible, but I knew Ezekiel was a name from the Bible. When I look up the name of Ezekiel, King David comes up. And I was like, wow, that's weird. Like, they're actually linked. And then when I looked up King David in Wikipedia, there was this painting and it looked exactly like this. And I was like, okay, that's crazy. So that's the kind of thing that happens with, so this one is not for sale because it's dear to my heart. I can't let this one go. But it's a great example of how the process unfolds. So this one here is one that I'm working on right now. And see if you can see anything in it. I'll give you a second to kind of look at it. Maybe this way is better. And see if you can see anything, and then I'll tell you what I'm seeing in it. So what I'm getting in this is the nose. And so what's been coming to me lately is the panther, the Black Panther. And it's about empowerment. And so here's the nose, and up here are the eyes. So can you see that? The panther, how the nose comes down. So this is how this works. That I'll just fill in and add detail to this to bring out the face, or in this case, the face of the panther, which I don't typically do animals. I'm not sure if I've actually ever done an animal. Mostly, I do women, but because the panther's been coming lately, I thought I would, start with that. So I'll start with this one. Now, these are the ones that I've put on Etsy. So this is, I saw her, this was one of the paintings, put the paint on the canvas, and and she just emerged, and so you can really get a sense too of the hair, like how that was not something that I really planned. It just kind of happened, and it's backwards. It's very hard to get used to this, and so she emerged, and I just love her. She's so I see her as an Indian goddess. And a friend of mine who's from India, I said, oh, I think it's Lakshmi. And she said, no, it doesn't look like Lakshmi. So I kind of gave up trying to say who it was and just allowed her to be. But she's really a presence, and a strong presence that I always feel. And, this is one of the paintings I have that really, not only do I love, but it's one you just don't get tired of. It just has this, I don't know, some of them do have this ability to just just kind of be with you. It doesn't get old. So the other thing about these paintings, which my guides told me, was that there's an energy contained in them. I know a lot of people that do intuitive paintings, they tend to put the emotion in and talk about how the emotion is in the paintings. And for me, when I paint these intuitive paintings, I kind of end up into like a Zen mind, like no mind. And so what happens for me is, in that space, it's like a meditative space. And in that place, what happens is the energy of the divine can come through. So what I was guided to was that energy of like wholeness and peace is actually embedded in the paintings, because that's the energy that's kind of coming through me into the art itself. So where someone might do a painting and be like, this is about love, or this is about freedom, or this is about joy, these paintings all have that kind of meditative quality to them, which is really embedded in the art itself. So that is the Indian woman. I put the link somewhere here. I think it's in the description for this. So if you're interested in checking out the paintings on Etsy, the link is there. So this is obviously another painting where I put, and you can get, the pictures are better on Etsy too, so you can probably really look at them closely and see what they're like. So I call this one Emerging Woman, because you can see the eyes here, the nose, and the mouth. And it felt to me like she had almost like I don't know if it would be like hair or a headdress kind of happening there. And sorry about the glare there. And because this has a gloss varnish on it. But this, it seemed like to me like kind of like a headdress here, but I didn't feel like I wanted to add the detail in. I just left it kind of, I left it open to, your own imagination. But a lot of my work feels like it's about the emerging feminine. My books, everything that I do really is about the feminine. So this one was one of those paintings, which I just love. One of the interesting things about this one really is how the paint is on the canvas, how it dried. It just has like this crackle effect almost across the entire painting. It's just, to me, just fascinating how sometimes that paint, like it does its own thing, and it kind of has a life of its own. It's so interesting. So this one is another one of my favorites. I have a larger one that's very similar to this. And this one made me feel like it was like a council or guides meeting in the etheric realms, right? And I saw like this was like, of course you can see anything you want to say. This is, you interpret it for yourself. It doesn't. This is just how I saw this, as this was like a higher being who was speaking or expressing. Obviously, they don't speak. Expressing or communicating. That's a better word. Communicating with the group. And so, yeah. So to me, it just has this feeling of connection, like the group is meeting to share information about something or get directive about something. And to me, these the two paintings that I did like this really gave me the feeling of that, the guides that are with us kind of being present. And yeah, so that's that one. And then this is one I really love. This one too. This is another one that I just really like a lot. She emerged partly, and then I filled her in. She was one that was I just kind of had a faint sense of who she is, and then added to her to fill her out. There had been a figure of a man in here, and then I ended up filling her out, and it covered him over. But which I typically don't end up painting the masculine, just because it just doesn't happen. When I paint, I don't really think about it. Like I said, the Ezekiel and King David, that's rare. I think I have two paintings of men. One was Jesus and one was the King David in Ezekiel. So it's just not something that happens a lot. So I don't think when I paint. I just do whatever comes to me in the moment. And so I just love her and her eyes and the way that the painting is, like the detail and the way it all just really felt like it came together. And again, this is something I don't do too often either, is with these leaves and all these different elements around her. But so she's really just a lovely presence. Just so that kind of gaze, it's just like that penetrating gaze, just presence, so much presence there. And then here we have this little sweet one, and she is the meditating fairy. Let's see if you get a little glimpse of her. Yeah, so again, painting, just put on the canvas, allow it to dry, and this is what emerged. So so she's got a meditating thing. So again, if you go onto Etsy and see, like, really, like, looking at her, I did a close up of her face. She's really pretty. She's just got this really great little look on her face, and yeah, and so that has like the bird again. So this one does have some nature elements in it that I really wasn't thinking of before when I was showing you the last one. But she just, again, that kind of grounded presence, right? I was saying that I don't really think about it, but it just happens that's the energy that comes through. This is another one I just love. So this one is Elizabeth. That name came through when I painted her, and the paint just went on, which again you can really see in the hair that I couldn't paint that if I tried. Like, that was the paint on the canvas and drying in its own way. Actually, the whole thing, as it dried, I looked and I was like, oh, this is her face, and she's looking away. I mean, it's a really unusual, because especially most of my pieces are looking directly at you. They're very forward, and in this one, to have her kind of looking away in such a, you might get a profile often in a painting, but it's rare to just get that glimpse of the face, just that small glimpse. But it's like she's looking into the light, and like the energy of what she's seeing. It's just like, for me, it was like it's just blowing her hair back, right, like a wind. And to me it emphasizes hearing, right, because her ear is exposed, like really hearing inside to the still small voice, right, that kind of the presence that's, the truth of who we are. But yeah, so this is another one that I just really really love. The despite the fact that it has that energy to it, it still to me just has that grounded feeling of just, again, I know I've said it a couple times, presence. But so that's Elizabeth. And then this one, again, another one where I just put the paint on the canvas and then let it dry, and what do I see? And this is what emerged in this one, which, so we have the woman on the bottom holding the flower with the bird, this little bird up here, this cute little bird, and then the swan, like really almost, you can imagine this is almost like a moment captured in a snapshot, right? That the bird just landed on the flower and the swan was just kind of on its way passing by. So yeah, she's really, and the way this fabric goes over her head, to me, just was so kind of elegant. Yeah. And the flower, the uniqueness of that. So this is another one that I have available on Etsy if you want to check it out. And here, this one was so interesting too. Yeah. So this one, again, paint on the canvas, it dries, and what do I see? I see this woman, she emerges first, and then I notice that there's like this other face up here. And so what I felt like is, the higher self, the true self, whatever you want to call that part of you, is always conscious, is always awake, right? There has to be some part of you that remains conscious even when you're asleep. So when you're asleep, you close your senses to the outer world. So you're asleep to the outer world, but your consciousness is still awake. There's some part of you that's still like listening to your environment, right? An unusual noise will wake you up. But there's some part of you that is conscious of what you're dreaming. That's witnessing the dream. So this part of you I saw as like the higher self, which is awake even while the kind of the smaller S self is asleep. So like the consciousness to the world is asleep, and this other part, this part where your intuition is the part that's your guide, that's the part that's knowing, the part that is connected to the divine, that is aware of the truth of who it is, right? The still small voice comes from here. So that would be this one. It's like a portal to look into that inner sanctum, what's happening inside when the world is all asleep. Yeah. And I thought she just was so pretty too. The higher self is so pretty. Lots of times the women come pretty. I don't know how they become pretty because I don't have enough talent to be able to make them pretty. They just come out pretty. At least I think they are. So this one's a fun one. What I love about this one is the color. These are unusual colors. I typically don't paint in these. Oops. Yeah, I'm not sure if I could show that. So you could see it on Etsy. She doesn't have a top on, but she doesn't have her boobie showing either. So this one, there's just a lot of energy in this. Like I said, I don't typically paint energy, and I didn't consciously do that, but it has that look of energy because of the movement of the lines. The lines are strong and have a lot of movement to them. I typically do things that are more subtle. And she's just got an interesting gaze to her, I think. the way that she looks, and just the way she sits and merges with the surroundings is just, I really like the colors and the vibrancy of this painting. She's yeah, she's interesting. So we're coming down to the last one here. I think I showed everything. So this is Isabel. This name came on this one too. So again, you know, paint just went on the canvas, and I guess I don't think about paint that I paint, you know, these nature elements, but I'm surprising myself. I don't really think of my stuff that way, but I guess I do. So you see something when you put them all together like this and talk about them. So yeah, so Isabel emerged, right? It's just, again, I've talked about, like, isn't that interesting how there's like the hoods and the circles that they're coming out of, and the emerging from the background, like over and over again, there's this sense of like coming forward, right? Like just like which is so perfect for the time that we're in, because the time that we're in is really about the emergence of the feminine in order to become empowered and elevated, and unite with the masculine. So yeah, so she's just so cool. And then on this side, there's this little moon that came out, and this like little night here, and then over here is like the light of day. But she is just so interesting, so present, and yeah. I guess I like all of them. I really do. And it would be a blessing to anyone's home if you decided to get one up. So the shop on Etsy is called Wonders by Pamela. And I'll just take one more minute or two, and I might do this another week, but to go into it in more depth. But I have some of these copies of Initiation of the Soul, and I put those on it as well as Psyche's Poetry. I had some copies of this too. So if you wanted a signed copy for you or somebody you love for Christmas, cool present. So this is Initiation of the Soul, Myth and Fairy Tales as a Path to Freedom and Wholeness. And then Psyche's Poetry, Beauty to Awaken the Soul. And so I will read you a little poem to sign off here from Psyche's Poetry. The wintry winds blow, tearing across the land, mournful sounds sung through bare branches. Stiff, icy fingers ripping my coat, threatening to seep beneath the veil, until the moment when the north winds die, revealing stillness and a growing silence, patiently waiting for the unknown to show the nature of itself. Strings played in uncertainty, dancing out an indistinct melody. A gentle breeze ruffles my hair and molds my lips into a faint smile. Thanks, Vic. The whisper of a songbird enchants, calling to me and Psyche's children to awaken from our long slumber and embrace the fullness of being. To be true, not to the past or to what was, but to listen. To embrace the heart's essence, sink into the flow and ease of the breath. Follow the rhythm that's ours alone. Let it take form and guide us home. Embody the truth, be a light, live from the self, and then take flight. Nature does not base this year's experience on last year's experience. Each year it lives according to its full potential. What can I do to express the essence of my being as a flower, tree, or bird does? They don't live with the idea that experiences from 10 years ago limit what happens today or who they are in this moment. Why do we? What do I need to do to live today fully and live from the self? So that's it. So thanks, Vic, for joining me this morning. It's so nice to see you. And for anybody who gets to see the recording of this, I hope you enjoy it. And if you could get a chance to just take a closer look at the paintings, that would be great. Wonders by Pamela. Anyway, have a great day, everybody. Take care. Thanks, Vic.